Super. So just give yourself a moment to arrive on your mats. You may need a few props tonight. We'll see how it goes. We're going to be working quite strongly with the abdominal navel region. And if you're interested in the energy, the chakras, we're thinking about Manipura chakra. So a lot of navel radiation, a lot of consideration around the core. And when we talk about core in a lot of modalities, it really just refers to, that Mandarin, it refers to the superficial musculature around the abdominal region. And actually, your core is much more than that. It's not just the superficial musculature, which will develop and, move and change depending on your activities from day to day, week to week. But it also accounts for your two diaphragms, your respiratory diaphragm and your pelvic diaphragms. Those two aspects of our core are really crucial, as is the way that we use those two diaphragms. So let's come into an easy cross-legged position. I'm using a little zafu. You can use a block, you can use a cushion, you can use a folded blanket. In fact, I might bring my blanket over here. Ensure that you're comfortable. We're just going to be here for a few minutes. Make sure that your pelvis has enough space to move. So you don't want to feel like the knees are up high and there's a certain amount of rigidity there. When we haven't got the external rotation in the hips and the knees are up high, it can feel quite slumpy. So use as much height as you possibly need. And I know you guys have practiced in this. So allowing for the legs to rest away from the hip points. Then find your tall spine with that lovely curve of the lumbar lordosis, the thoracic enkythosis, and the cervical spine. And feeling into the length of the neck with the head reaching up towards the ceiling. I'd like you to acknowledge your breath and how that is naturally today within your body, without trying to change anything firstly. Acknowledge where the movement is within your body. Indeed, if there is any movement, perhaps you're breathing, but there's no perceptible movement internally. Then begin to breathe through the nostrils if you're not already doing so. And allow for the belly to soften. My favourite bit, allow for that belly to soften. I've got my extra stretchy leggings on today. So if you've got anything tight around the abdominal region, you want to stretch it and release around that region. Now, indeed, if you want to bring your hands to the front of the belly into Yoni Mudra, you can bring the thumbs together and the forefingers within a little diamond shape. Relaxing the shoulders, relaxing around the facial muscles as you breathe into this space underneath the hands. So as you inhale, the belly opens and expands outwardly. And on the exhalation, there's a sense of drawing inwards. Now, you might like to use the visualization of a balloon. So as you inhale, the balloon opens, expands as though you're blowing up this balloon. And on the exhalation, there's a sense of contraction as all the air draws out of that balloon. Inhaling, belly expands. And if your belly is not completely okay with expanding, it's not playing ball, you can literally press that belly outwards. If this doesn't feel natural to you, it's very likely that you are a flipped breather. Maybe it's more normal for you in your day-to-day life to inhale and draw the belly in. Many of us do that. But we're expecting the belly to soften on the inhalation in order to allow for the diaphragm, the respiratory diaphragm, to flatten and draw down so the air brushes into the lung cavity. And on the exhalation, there's a sense of drawing inwards. So if you bring the hands away from one another as you inhale, the fingers move apart. As you exhale, the fingers draw together again. Hopefully there's a perceptible feeling underneath the fingertips of you breathing in this way. Now, this is going to be really crucial for our Kapalabhati, our skull shining breath. Normally, this is a breath that we would practice in the morning. It's a very energizing breath. It awakens the body, but it's still a crucial one. It's still something we can practice in the evening. So this action with the diaphragm is going to be really crucial to our understanding of Kapalabhati. Always coming back to this soft belly breathing, abdominal breathing, or with the visualization of the balloon. Lovely. So keep going with that breath, but bring the hands now to the sides. We're going to drop the left ear down to the left shoulder. If your shoulders are feeling really tight today, you might want to circle them and increase that sense of shoulder drawing down. Opening up into the sternomastoid, we're going to reach the arm away, feeling into the chin as we tilt forwards and backwards. We can take this slightly further by bringing the left hand onto the side of the head and creating that roll. So there may be areas that feel particularly tender. And we're going to take the gaze into our eye lock, our eye exercise, taken from Stanley Rosenberg to access the vagus nerve. So locking the eyes down to the left corner of the eye socket. Noticing if any transitional states is coming about already. So maybe you're salivating. Maybe you're moving into the parasympathetic nervous system of rest and digest. Maybe you have a dry mouth and you're in the sympathetic nervous system. So we're talking about the autonomic nervous system here. We can analyze our body's responses to help us understand where we're at any given moment. So if you feel like you need to sigh, let it out. Don't feel like you need to repress that sigh. Maybe there's a sense of transition. Maybe you feel like you're moving into a state of calm, or maybe it's a state of tiredness. Maybe we're working on the adrenals in our daily life, and this just simply gives us the acknowledgement that we're actually really tired. So with the gaze down at the left corner of the eye socket, we're going to take this further and move into the lateral extension movement by drawing into the side of the rib cage. This intensifies this action of this wandering vagus nerve, moving down through the neck into the viscera around the heart and down into the digestive system. And if you like to, you can release the eyes, release the hand, and then release the upper hand to bring the head up towards the ceiling. And then we're going to work to the other side, dropping the right ear to right shoulder, reaching out to the left side, feeling into the side of the neck. Breathing into that soft belly. And then taking this a little bit further, dropping right hand to the side of the head, feeling into maybe a tilt of the chin forwards and backwards. And then taking the gaze, so you lock the eyes down to the right corner, the face is forwards, but the gaze is down at the corner of the eye socket for about 30 seconds or more. If you want to take the action further, you bring the left hand into the side of the rib cage and almost pull. So you've got this very interesting access into the vagus nerve. Observing how you feel, moving into that state of the witness spoken about within yoga and Buddhism. Acknowledging whether you need to sigh or even yawn. Are you salivating? Or do you have a dry mouth? Do you acknowledge these processes without judgment? Noticing what you notice. If this makes you feel sick or dizzy, feel free to remove the hands and draw yourself up early. Breathing into the belly, we're going to release the side of the rib cage. Bring the gaze up towards the midline. Release the hand and draw the head up towards the ceiling. Let's drop the chin down forward, so we've got this access to the back of the neck. Bringing the hands to the back of the neck muscles, we're giving ourselves a little bit of self-massage here. Feeling into the tendons that run down alongside the back of the neck here. So you've got this lovely area, if you stroke up to the occipital ridge where the skull meets the neck. And that's such a juicy area. If you ever persuade someone to give you a massage, this is the area to work into, as you've got lots of lymph nodes working from this point, lots of cranial nerves. So if you want to know which cranial nerve your vagus nerve is, it's cranial nerve 10. But there are other cranial nerves that work alongside and innervate that cranial nerve. Just stroking along the back here and releasing the hands. We're gently going to come over to the left side to come into a rotation. bringing the right hand to the knee and really encouraging that left hand to come back and behind us more than we might do in our practice, because often this hand just comes to wherever. We're encouraging that back more than we possibly would in the past. This rotation comes in as you breathe into the soft belly through the thoracic and not through the lumbar. Breathing here. And I just needed to burp, apologies. Inhaling into soft belly and exhaling here. On your next inhalation, we're going to rotate to the other side, coming to the right side, encouraging the right arm all the way back. The left hand comes to the outer knee. Inhaling into soft belly, allow that belly to expand like it's a balloon. And exhale. Inhaling into soft belly. It might be the case that you're visualizing a specific colored balloon. For some reason, I always consider it to be a red balloon. Your balloon might be blue. It might be yellow. It might be some other color. Breathing into this space before releasing in through the midline. And we're going to make our way back onto our backs into semi-supine, removing any props if they're in the way. So coming into our semi-supine and coming back to that sense of balloon breathing. Now your pelvis will have dropped down into maybe the habituated positionality of your pelvis, and some of us hold a lot of tension within the lumbar, in which case you might have this lumbar arch underneath. Now you can bring your hands to this region because this gives us extra feedback. Now as you inhale, allow for that belly to billow, your balloon inflates, and we're going to roll along the pelvis to create the lumbar arch. As we exhale, the belly deflates, the balloon deflates, and we flatten the pelvis against the hands. So it's this lovely movement of the pelvic tilting on the breath. So inhale, pelvis, as though it's got a bowl of water position there, slooshes the water down towards the feet. Exhale, a sense of drawing inwards as we flatten the hands against the floor. Now, as you breathe in this way, to and fro, with the movement of the pelvis, I find with a lot of students this is actually really tricky to cultivate, especially postnatally. This pelvic tilt, sometimes it's not that easy to access if we've developed really strong coping mechanisms or tension within the iliopsoas, and many of us have. Exhaling, flattening the hands, inhale, rolling the pelvis towards the feet. Now we're going to take another element here. As you exhale, feel the pelvic diaphragm drawing up into the inner sanctum of the pelvis. So for those of you thinking of pelvic floor, there's a sucking up, and then inhale, there's a drawing down, a grounding down. And for those of us who have been through childbirth, this may be quite a palpable sense. So as we flatten the hands, we're exhaling, pelvic diaphragm, and like a jellyfish, drawing that up. So it's in response with the respiratory diaphragm. And then as you inhale, there's a sense of easing off the hands and release and expansion. So the diaphragms are contracting downwards. So we're moving between those 2 points. If it's tricky to encourage the pelvic diaphragm within these 3 aspects, because we're moving, we have the respiratory diaphragm, the breath, and we have the pelvic diaphragm. So if you get lost with those 3 aspects, work with 2, moving between those positions. And if you can release that sense of concentration, you're probably more likely to allow for that witness state to come about, so you can fully absorb what's taking place without trying to control it too much. Again, it's very easy to move into the sense of needing to control, and when we concentrate and need to control in that way, we prevent ourselves from actually being able to move freely, especially within the hips. Okay. Moving between those 2 points. And then we're going to bring the knees up towards the chest and give ourselves a little hug. So you may want to bring the head off the floor, giving yourself a little massage, side to side, feeling into that space. Now we're going to drop the left knee so it's down at the floor and get hold of the knee with the right hand. Okay, and we're going to start by gazing up towards the knee. but we're going to slacken off. So we've got a pulley system taking place. So we actually need to put this foot down. So we need the right foot down. Apologies. Now we're going to kick that knee away. And what's the response? There's quite a somatic response here. When we pull that knee away, an action like a pulley moves up through the arm, peels the shoulder off the ground, and then we simply must lift the head. We're working with the lumbar, pushing down towards the floor. So if you had your hand there, it would be squashed essentially. And then we ease off on the inhalation. So as we exhale, flattening the lumbar against the floor, we have this lovely lift. It's a bit like an asymmetric crunch action. And then release back, exhaling. We'll do 5 of these on this side, allowing for the pulley system to move up through into the elbow, the shoulder. Noticing what you notice where the stretch is, notice where the contraction lies. One more, kicking that knee away. Hand is pulled all the way up to the shoulder. There's something very satisfying about this movement. And release. Releasing that left foot down and bring the right hand to the side. So now we're drawing that right knee in towards the belly. The left hand comes on top of the knee. We kick the knee away and there's that pulley system. If you think about the body as a system of pulleys, and you have to lift the head as you get to a certain point. So on the exhalation, you're drawing up, and the inhalation, you allow yourself to drop. Exhaling. Now you may want to bring the pelvic diaphragm into this as well. Just notice when you begin to clench too much around the stomach, and then releasing down. And there may be one side, especially if there's something taking place postnatally, or if you've got a hiatus hernia, work cautiously here. Indeed, if you've had some surgical intervention, a laparoscopy, you want to be fairly gentle and drawing yourself back down. And one more time. Kicking that knee away, exhaling, allowing for the head to come off the ground and drawing the head back. Lovely. Now both knees are coming in towards your midline now, and then you're going to push those knees away on the inhalation. Observe at what point does the pelvis tilt. Exhale, draw the knees in towards the chest. The pelvis tilts in one direction. Inhale, maybe the pelvis is tilting away and you're creating a lumbar arch. This time, bring the toes together and scoop. And when you're scooping the knees round, is there any movement around the back of the pelvis? Or maybe there isn't. Just observe what's taking place within your body. And then come back in the opposite direction. Inhaling the knees away. Exhaling the knees closer in. And you can take those circles as large as you like today, or indeed make them as controlled and small as you like. Noticing whether there's any gristly bits in the pelvis, any areas that feel particularly stretchy or tight or congested even. Lovely. And then drop the knees down towards the ground. Now bring the hands out to the sides. We're just going to gently windmill knees over to one side and then to the other. And take the gaze in the opposite direction. So as the knees drop to the left, gazing over to the right. And as knees drop over to the right, we gaze to the left. And then bring the feet back into your semi-supine. We're going to make sure those feet are about hip width apart to prepare for our 2-foot support. The hands are going to come onto the top of the head, and we're going to gaze at the front of the pelvis. Now, as we allow for the pelvis to move up vertebra by vertebra, we drop the head in unison. Okay, and then as you roll back down through the vertebra, like a little crunch, you draw your gaze to the front of the pelvis, rocking and rolling through each of those vertebrae, really mindfully acknowledging each area. How does it feel around the shoulders, in between the shoulder blades, the rhomboids, the trapezius? That's getting a little bit of a massage with the arms in this different position here. Inhaling, if you want to follow the breath as you lift up through the pelvis. Exhale to roll down. And a couple of these in your own time. And I'm lifting my toes off the ground here to protect my knees. Maybe explore how that feels. And the next time we come up into your bridge, Setu Bandhasana, release the hands, clasp them behind your buttocks, create a little shelf as you bring the shoulder blades together, drawing a lovely long line from knees along the quads, the front of the hip points, up through belly into your Setu Bandhasana with a lovely long neck gazing up at the ceiling, pressing down through the heels, and then release all the way down, nice and slow. Gathering the knees in towards the center, we're going to start in a small singularity. It's like how I like to think about it. So we're coming into imagining that you're like a single organism into your cellular form, making yourself as small as possible. And as we inhale, we're going to open the arms out to your outer reaches, and you can take this as wide as you like, using that sense of navel core center, and we're radiating outwards, and our limbs are very much like the outer reaches of a cell. And exhale, bring those limbs back in. Inhale, opening, taking the limbs as wide as we need to. Exhale, a couple more of these. Really feeling into what's taking place, not just the position of the pelvis, but how much strength we're utilizing from the musculature, the rectus abdominis, and open one more time, exploring a wider reach, potentially, if that feels right, before drawing ourselves into a tiny little ball or a singularity. And we're going to begin to roll our 3 rolls to come into tabletop. Rocking and rolling along the spine. Before we cross the shins over, bring the hands forwards and flick the legs out behind us into our lovely tabletop. You may want to make some movements within the hands, especially if you're feeling tight around the lower forearm area. Spreading through the fingers, really push down through the fingers here. Now we're going to adjust the position of the pelvis and flow with that by tucking the tailbone under. Acknowledge what takes place as you draw into your scared cat with a sense of lift through the pelvic diaphragm, your mular band, your pelvic floor. Inhaling, we allow for that undulation to take place from the pelvis. The pelvis leads this action as we peel the tailbone up towards the ceiling, allowing for that flowing wave up to the top of the head. Inhaling into your lovely neutral, allowing for the pelvis to move. Exhale into your scared cat. Inhale into your neutral. Acknowledge the tops of the feet and whether they rest against the floor. Exhale into your cow. Lovely. And then finding yourself in your neutral. If you're a very busy lumbar person, you get lower back pain, you may want to think about the tailbone grounding down towards the mat. Now we're going to come into some Kapalabhati from all fours. Kapalabhati pranayama, I will demonstrate this. I'll do 10 or so. It takes quite a lot of strength around the abdomen to pump on a forced exhalation, which is why I'm going to demonstrate. On the inhalation, we're going to utilize gravity, which is why we're in an all fours position, to allow for that diaphragm to draw down and relax. So on the inhalation, it's a relaxation. It's not a forced inhalation. If you force the inhalation, it's a Bhastrika breath. It's a completely different pranayama. I'll try and show you what's taking place. You're focusing on that movement, and what will happen, what you'll see is that my spine should be moving in response. But I'm not really doing that. That's not the intention. That's just a response. So I'll do 10 or so, and then we'll do 3 rounds of 10 together. So I'm inhaling through the nostrils and exhaling through the nostrils. So all of this takes place through the nostrils. And then I'm going to begin to pump through the exhalation. So hopefully what you saw was my spine was moving, and that's what we're looking for. There's a forced exhalation through the nostrils. The inhalation is that relaxation action that we've been working with balloon breathing. So let's do 10, pause, acknowledge how you feel, come into another 10, pause, and then come into another 10. If you're someone that moves into a panic state, an anxious state, or panic attacks, and you're very tight in the shoulders, this can unfortunately induce a panic and an anxious state. So be very aware of whether you're feeling anxious, whether you're breathing into the clavicular area of the lungs. And if that's you, just come back to your belly breath, come back to your balloon breathing. Okay, so we're going to begin in our all fours position. Breathing through the nostrils quite freely. And after your next inhalation, we exhale, followed by a natural inhalation with a forced exhalation afterwards. Beginning now. After you've done 10 or so, allow for that lovely long inhalation to come in. If you find that you get to 10, great. If you want to go beyond that to 20, you've practiced Kapalabhati a lot, please feel free to do so. If you get lost within the process, just come back to do a few more. Inhaling, exhaling, and after the next inhalation, just notice how sometimes tricky it can be to come into that forced exhalation with the pumping around the abdomen. Acknowledge how that felt before we do another round. Inhaling freely, exhaling freely, inhaling, and begin. Observe how you feel as you drop yourself back into a kneeling position. Tonight, I've got a tickle in my throat, so that's causing something. It may be the case that there's a sense of energy moving up into your head. It's also known as skull shining breath. So if you get that sense of the prefrontal cortex getting a bit of a clean, then that's what we're looking for. But by all means, if you've not practiced it before, just acknowledge how you're feeling before we come into the next asana. So coming back into your tabletop, we're going to explore bringing the feet off the ground and dropping ourselves down into prone. Bringing the hands out in front to create a little cushion. So we're in crocodile and swinging the hips from side to side to remind the body to relax, to release, to let go, to surrender. And then bring the hands underneath the shoulders. You might want to bring the hands out into little teepees tonight. As we draw ourselves and our fronts of pubic bone and the tops of the feet down, we're going to come up into cobra. Gazing down at the mat. And then draping the vertebrae down one by one. Let's try one more time. Feeling that movement undulate up through the spine, creating some support with the arms, gazing down at the mat in front of us and scooping ourselves back down again. Lovely. Now we're going to explore, so bring the hands into your crocodile, bending at the right knee and circling into the ankle. How do the quads feel in this position, in the front of the hip points? And then circle in the opposite direction, which is becoming a bit unfathomable to me tonight. So opposite direction. Now, how does it feel with the right hand to get hold of the ankle? Now, the quads are required to lengthen, as is the iliopsoas here. So can you kick the heel away? And what is the response into the torso and up into the clavicular spine? Maybe there's a case that there's a sort of lift, similar to Cobra Bhujangasana. And we're going to release and let go of that side, bringing the hands to the front, dropping the foot. And same thing again to the other side. Circling into the ankle in one direction, circling into the ankle in the opposite direction. Lovely. Opening up those energy channels into the ankles. And then how does it feel to get hold of the ankle? Now, this might be enough for you tonight, bearing in mind what we're asking of the quads and the iliopsoas. If you're happy here, can you kick the heel away And acknowledge, again, like this pulley system, the front of the chest lifting. And release both the arm and the leg. Wiggling the hips from side to side. Now, if you find your lumbar is twinging, come back into child's pose. We're going to try that on both sides. Bending at the knees, getting your wrists, your ankles, they're a bit like wrists, ready? And get hold of the ankles with both hands. We're going to kick the feet away and acknowledge what takes place within the upper chest. Now, if you're balloon breathing into the belly, as you inhale, pressing the belly down towards the mat, you might get a little rock. As you exhale, maybe there's a rock down. Inhale, exhale. Belly breathing. Creating some movement wherever you are, focusing on the breath. And opening up those shoulders around the collarbone, drawing the shoulder blades together. We're going to release and release down into crocodile, wiggling hips side to side. And taking the hands underneath the shoulder blades, drawing the buttocks back, coming back into child's pose, either with the knees wide, your wide-legged child's pose, or with the knees together, whatever suits you today. And then bring yourself back into your tabletop. Again, noticing the positionality of the pelvis, especially after your bow. If there was anything twingy around there, focus on the tailbone grounding down towards the mat. We're going to come into our bird dog, spreading the fingers nice and wide. Find that lovely base of support. And with that focus point around the navel, we're going to reach the right arm and the left leg outwards on the inhalation. As we exhale, we're going to draw the limbs inwards. Maybe they make contact. Inhale. Reach, exhale, knee to elbow. Inhale. 5 on this side. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. This time we're coming to the outer reaches like with salamanders. Inhale, exhale, bringing. Actually, this is more like a tree frog than a salamander, I think. Inhaling, reaching, exhale, bouldering stance like a tree frog. Inhale, exhale. One more. Inhale, exhale. Dropping the limbs, finding stability. Inhaling to reach, spreading through fingers and toes. Exhale, elbow, knee come together or thereabouts. Inhale, finding that sense of support on the breath. Exhale, inhale, nice and smooth and slow on your own breath here. Inhale, exhale, and after 5 or so in that way, we're going to come into our tree frog salamander out to the outer reaches. Exhaling, inhaling, exhaling, fixing our drishti, our focal point in the middle of our mats. Inhaling as you reach and stretch and lengthen. Exhale and release. Tucking our toes under now, we're going to pop ourselves into broken toe Vajrasana. Moving the little toes out if necessary. If you know that this is a stabbing pain situation, take the pressure off, bring the hands forwards, or indeed bring the hands onto the thighs. Now we're going to come into a pelvic tilt here. So as we exhale, we're going to roll into a posterior tilt, so the tailbone draws down. As we inhale, we're rolling forwards, anterior tilts. Tricky to see what I'm doing here. Exhale, inhale, shoulders move together. Exhale, flexion. Inhale, extension. Exhale, belly draws in. Inhale, belly relaxes. Exhale, the head might move forwards. Inhale. So you've got this action taking place as you move between those points. And then taking the hands down alongside the mat, we're going to prepare to come into our downward dog. Finding a downward dog that feels really stable. So you want to widen those hands, widen the knees, widen the feet. And we're going to lift the pelvic bones up towards the ceiling, dropping the head down, gazing under one armpit and the other armpit, feeling into our downward dog, lifting up onto the toes, exploring as the heels come down, feeling into this space, coming back to that sense of the balloon breath as we expand on the inhalation. And on the exhalation, allow for the belly to draw inwards. Now you may want to bring the feet in towards the midline, so the feet come together. We're going to lift up through the right leg, three-legged dog. On an exhalation, we're going to draw the knee towards nose and hold the exhalation at the pause, and then inhale, reach the foot up. We're going to do it 3 times. Exhale, knee comes to nose or thereabouts. Inhale, lifting leg up. Exhale, hold, inhale, leg comes up towards ceiling. This time we're going to the outer elbow. Exhale, inhale, exhale, knee to elbow or thereabouts. Inhale. By all means, come down into child's pose at any point. Exhale, inhale. This time we're coming across the center point of the body to the opposing elbow. Inhale, exhale, using that breath for support. Inhale, exhale, and inhale. And then bending the knee, dropping the foot behind the buttock. We open up into Scorpio, looking under the right armpit, and then bring that foot back down. So we're coming to the other side. Three-legged dog, left side. Exhale, knee to nose. Pause at the end of the exhalation. Inhale. Exhale, knee to nose. Inhale. Exhale, pause at the end of the exhalation. Inhale. Exhale, outer elbow. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale, outer reaches. And inhale. Now we're going across the midline of the body. Exhale to elbow. Inhale, spreading through those fingers if you find your hands slipping. Inhale. Last one, you can celebrate internally. And reach up into your scorpion, bending the knee, dropping the foot, opening out to the side of the body, under the left armpit, before bringing the foot back down. You're in your downward dog, and we're going to simply transition, padding the feet to the front of the mat into Uttanasana, forward fold, bending the knees, sinking the torso so you're nice and heavy. The head is heavy, like a chimpanzee, and you've got a little bit of bounce. And then we're going to bring ourselves into an upright position, ragdoll style, imagining that each of those vertebrae are unfurling, stacking up on top of one another. And there's a position where you almost bring the pelvis forwards as you unfurl, bring the head up last of all. And I'm just going to adjust. So coming into your Tadasana with the knees bent. So you've got your Tadasana. Super. Acknowledging how the feet meet the ground. So I'm going to stand at the front of the mat. And taking the weight into the left foot, draw the right knee up towards the chest. Okay. And then we're going to take that foot back. We're going to take it back into Virabhadrasana 2. So our stance is a bit wider than Virabhadrasana 1. We've still got the integrity of the front line of the knee. So to ensure that we've got that, we bring that right leg back and take this back. So that front knee is tracking with the toes. The back leg goes into a position with the foot at about 45 degrees. The angle is dependent on the set of your hips. Ensure that front knee is super happy, aka, because I can't see it on the screen, it's not winging into the side, So when you've got this kind of knee rolling in, it twists into the knee. It's not good. So you want to make sure you're nice and strong in the front knee. Let's inhale the arms out to our sides, gazing down at the left middle finger. Virabhadrasana 2, Warrior 2. Waking up the back hand because that gets pretty lazy in Virabhadrasana 2. So we're going to lean forwards into our future, allowing for the spine to move over the front leg. And then we're going to be pulled back into the past. And then we're going to bring ourselves into the present moment. So the alignment is tall. Coming into your pelvic diaphragm, draw up that pelvic diaphragm, Mula Bandha. Finding your, hopefully, peaceful warrior stance. And then bring that right hand back to the back leg. We're going to scoop the hand up towards the ceiling, following with the gaze, opening up the front or the sideline of the torso, keeping the bend in the knee, breathing here. And then with a sense of a windmill, we're going to draw ourselves back through Virabhadrasana 2, folding that left arm, bringing it to meet the quad, and then scooping the arm up and over to feel a lovely long line from the toes, the middle of the foot or the heel, all the way up to the middle finger. Breathing here, nice and strong. And then inhale, the arm back, bring yourself back through Virabhadrasana 2, feeling into your Mula Bandha, so that internal diaphragm movement, before we take the weight into the front leg, bringing ourselves back into Tadasana. Super. So this time we're grounding down through the right leg, the left knee tucked up towards the chest. Utilising that full integrity of the leg, stepping back into Virabhadrasana 2. Check yourself, bring that foot back. This is for all of our bodies, so we can carry on doing yoga for the next 40 years. So we keep hold of our knees. We're going to bring the hands up into that position. And if your shoulders are particularly tight, rotate the palms up towards the ceiling and then bring the hands back down. Remembering your back hand. Feeling into your Mula Bandha, the pelvic diaphragm, drawing up, being drawn into the future. So we're thinking about our thinking minds, thinking about future, drawing ourselves back into the past. And then finding ourselves in the present moment. Where is that point? Where is your present moment? And then scooping that front hand up towards the ceiling, keeping the bend in the front leg, drawing ourselves up into our humble warrior, breathing here. And you feel that navel center, is that perceptible to you? And as you inhale, scooping ourselves forward, bending that front elbow, resting against the knee, and drawing the hand all the way up towards the ceiling. So you've got this lovely long line from the side of the foot up to the hip point, to the armpit and the middle finger, gazing up towards the sky. Breathing here. And on the next inhalation, taking the torso back into that present moment position in Virabhadrasana 2. Acknowledge your front knee, lifting the toes off the ground. Swivel and bring yourself forward into your Tadasana. Excellent. Find yourself in mountain pose. Now we're going to take the stance a little bit wider here, and I'm going to swivel so you can see what I'm doing, but I'll start front ways first. We're going to bend the knees, take the hands to the upper knee area. Ensure that you feel comfortable here. We're coming into a Agnisara. It's a Kriya, which means a cleansing technique. So you get Kriyas in Hatha Yoga and in Kundalini. So with our exhalation, we're going to allow for the pelvis to tilt. And with an inhalation, we're going to allow for the pelvis to draw back. Okay, so you've got this action. Exhale and inhale. Exhale, pelvic diaphragm lifts, as does the respiratory diaphragm. Inhale, sense of grounding down, expansion perhaps. Inhale, exhale rather. So exhale, posterior tilt. Inhale, anterior tilt. Exhale. It can feel a bit like you're dancing. Inhale. potentially an action that maybe us British folk aren't used to doing, allowing for an undulation or pelvic tilt to take place, utilizing both diaphragms. Exhale, inhale. It feels a bit like a belly dance. Exhale as you draw the pelvis forwards. Inhale, draw pelvis back. Exhale. Focus the breath on the activity of the pelvis. And you have an option here to come into lion's breath. So we'd come into lion's breath on the exhalation, sticking the tongue out, rolling the eyes back, and releasing all of that old debris, the stuff that gets stagnant within the lungs. So exhaling, inhale, and on the next exhalation after this one, we can come into lion's breath. Inhaling. A scary sight indeed. Now I hope to scare a few children when I'm a grandparent doing this. Inhaling, exhaling. And you can do that one more time as long as you don't have a sore throat. Inhaling and exhaling. And then releasing the hands off the knees. We're going to take the feet in, bend the knees, bring our heels off the ground, and transition down to your mat. I know you might have heard my knees clicking. So we're going to come into a kneeling position and bring the hands down into a tabletop. Finding your alignment in your tabletop, acknowledging the position of your pelvis, we're going to explore gate pose. So lengthening out through the left leg, swiveling through the right, taking the weight into the right hand, making sure the alignment between the hand, the knee, and the foot is there. Finding your sense of support within Manipura. Now, taking the arm up towards the ceiling, find that lovely stacking of the shoulders before you inhale up into gate pose and allow for that arm to drop down towards lengthened leg as you scoop the gaze, the drishti up towards the hand and up towards the ceiling. Breathing here. As you inhale, allowing for the belly to billow. As you exhale, belly draws inwards. On your next inhalation, we spiral the hands back down, bring the pelvis into stability, bringing your leg in and coming to your tabletop. Now we can come into side plank. You can also side plank it with that sense of support just now. So we move the legs out into plank pose, bring the feet together to make a 1 foot sort of footprint. And then with the right hand in and under the face or the gaze, spread those fingers wide and lift up into your side plank. So you're resting on the side of the foot like you're in Tadasana, but you just happen to be at a slightly different angle. If you're comfortable here, you can lift up through one leg, or you can drop the lower leg and create a supported side plank. Breathing here, utilizing the energy radiating from the navel. And know that you can support yourself with that lower leg, feeling that same sense of core or navel energy. And then to come out of your side plank, roll over to your tippy toes, come back through your plank and release down into child's pose as an option. So I've swiveled round to come to the other side. We're going to come into gate pose, extending through right leg, swiveling back through the left leg, and the side of the foot lands. I always end up off the mat in this position. Your hand is in a long line from knee to foot to hand, and you reach up towards the ceiling. Feeling that lovely long line from armpits to the side of the hip to the base of the foot. With that sense of stability, we inhale into our upright gates and allow for the right hand to drop down in the direction of the straightened leg with the gaze up towards the ceiling. Feeling into that lovely long line from knee to hip point to armpit to middle finger. Breathing here. And swiveling those arms back down, we rewind the film, bringing the left hand to meet. The right hand allows for a swiveling for the knees to come back into your tabletop. Really acknowledge the position of the hands. The hands are so integral, they're like little feet in our side plank. This time, as we extend the feet out, keep those big toes together. So you're tucking the big toes together as much as you possibly can. The left hand comes in line with the feet and you roll onto the side of the feet. So the feet are making contact. And then bring the hand up towards the ceiling. And your body is very much in a Tadasana position. Breathing to find security within your side plank. Vashisthasana. Breathing here, exploring if you want to, optional of course, lifting that leg up if it's available. And then rolling back into your plank, drawing the knees in, wide-legged child's pose with the forehead down towards the mat. And with a block if you want to bring the mat up towards the forehead. And rejoice internally. Yay! Nothing like side plank to make you feel very happy about being in child's pose. Breathing into this space. And then we're going to pad the hands up towards the knees and swivel the feet over to the left side. And then swivel the feet, rolling onto the hip points to the right side. And then do that again, this time with the hands out in front, so we're not cheating. And then swivel to the other side. Now, as we swivel, we're going to come into Navasana, oat pose. So we swivel the knees off the ground, spread the toes, come into a long spine. With an exhalation, we can draw the knees in towards the chest. As we inhale, feel into full boat. Exhale. Think about long spine. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale and hold. Being mindful to breathe before we drop the feet down onto the mats. We're going to take the hands behind the buttocks, pointing the fingers towards the feet, and feel into an openness around the front of the chest as we lift up into reverse tabletop, gazing down at the knees, noticing whatever sensations arise, breathing here, before dropping yourself back down and allowing for an openness of the legs as we sink the body forwards. Now we're going to come into an inversion, either shoulder stand, if you feel happy to do shoulder stand, if you've not got migraines, if you've not had head injuries, and if you haven't got high or low blood pressure. Obviously longer term students who do have high blood pressure often do come into shoulder stand anyway, that's your choice. But I always like to give you the contraindications. We can come into either waterfall with the bolster underneath the buttocks. So waterfall would be really helpful if you feel clenched in the lumbar. So I'm going to do this very ungracefully. Waterfall, a bit like Viparita Karini, your legs up the wall. Just with
Is that all right to do if you've got a period?
Okay, so if you're on your period, you'll probably want to do the Viparita Karini or waterfall if you feel happy to do waterfall, so it's up to you. In terms of menstruation, you probably wouldn't want to do shoulder stand, but some ladies do practice shoulder stand even when they're menstruating. It's like the idea of headstands. Generally, you wouldn't practice a headstand when you're pregnant, but if you've always practiced headstand, I practiced headstand when I was pregnant and I was okay. So it's about your judgment on your body and your energy levels. Because the idea is that when you're menstruating, you come into an inversion. The concern is that the blood will draw up into the body differently. But there are many arguments that would suggest that perhaps that's not possible. Actually, gravity can't do that. So coming into whatever position you want to come into, whether it's shoulder stand or Viparita Karini or the waterfall, when you come into your shoulder stand, if you're happy to roll, this is really the first stage, isn't it? Is that faith. And as you roll yourself up with a sense of control, you're taking the weight into the shoulders and the elbows, but not so much the head and the neck. So sometimes when we move into shoulder stand with much gusto, we move some movement into the neck, and you actually don't want so much of that. With the hands around the back of the pelvis or the back of the kidneys, and the gaze up towards the ceiling. And we won't be coming out of the inversion quite so yet, but when we do, think about rolling through each of those vertebrae and get the most out of your exit. When you're in your shoulder stand, or indeed in your Viparita Karini or waterfall, think about that navel region, a sense of hammocking around the belly, a sense of softness. This may automatically come in these positions anyway. Try and focus on energetic softness, muscular softness. It's about the receptivity and the responsiveness of that region. What's really interesting is people who work on tone and their rectus abdominis, you know, these ladies with abs, what they're doing is actually restricting, and this is very, very, very not helpful, but we all, you know, we seem to think that that's a really necessary thing. You're restricting the movement of the diaphragm unless you can relax the muscles. It's fine to have the strength there, but you also need to be able to relax. If all you have is musculature and not receptivity, you're preventing from the diaphragm from moving, you're preventing from a healing breath, and you're preventing yourself to move into something that massages those organs. That's what that diaphragm is there also for. And you move into this braced, kind of rigid, weightlifting type lack of response within the body, a stiffness essentially. So in your shoulder stand, thinking about exiting, releasing the spine. As you release the spine down, easing out through the vertebra and allowing for that head to lift so you don't get any sense of whiplash, drawing the knees in, bring the hands to the side, rock the knees from one side to the other side. And with that sense of the hara, as it's also known in Japanese traditions, that center point, we're going to release the legs out to the side. You can use a bolster under the knees, of course, and release the hands and the arms, allowing for the palms to roll up towards the ceiling, the legs and the feet flop out to the sides, coming into your Shavasana. Release and let go. Let your body be heavy and relaxed. If you need encouragement, if your body needs the encouragement, focus on the exhalation. Release. Every time you exhale, release. Releasing around the hip points, releasing around the back of the neck, releasing around the jaw, the TMJ, the facial muscles, releasing our furrowed brows, releasing. Releasing the crown of the head. I'm going to bring myself into an upright position just to talk you through the last few moments of the practice. And if you'd like to work with a visualization of this energy center, Manipura, situated around the gut belly, the gut brain, you might want to think about a ball of energy or light expanding and contracting. Expanding, receiving, contracting, and releasing. As if each of the cells within your body reverberate on the breath. And maybe that ball of light is a specific color to you, or a specific texture, maybe a diffused area around the outer reaches. Whatever resonates with you. And I think it's an interesting thought experiment, and it's scientifically proven that the gut brain is an older brain to our bodies than the thinking brain. So to acknowledge that the gut brain produces various things like serotonin and sends messages up to the brain, as opposed to the brain sending messages down towards the gut brain. So flipping that consideration of where the core of our being is the core of our being in our minds, or is the core of our being within the gut? Where is the center? And a lot of what we do in yoga is about moving our focus of awareness and our center, having the ability to move that center down and move the center up to the heart space, into the throat center. Releasing any attempt to work with a visualization, to work with your breath, and simply just be for a moment. Before I invite you to roll over onto either side of your body in a fetal position, creating maybe a little cushion for the side of the face, at the end of the following sound. Releasing the weight of the body down into the ground in this side lying position, and grounding down through arms to lift yourself up at the end of the following sound. And as you bring yourselves up, give yourself the opportunity to lean forwards, rolling pelvis forwards, and lean to the side, lean to the other side, and finding your sit bones grounding equally into the earth beneath you. And let's finish the practice by rubbing the hands together to create some heat. Just notice if your hands are cold or if your hands are warm. Create that heat so you can bring the palms to the eye sockets, acknowledging that contact with the eyes before bringing the hands down through the midline, bowing in acknowledgement, one another in the space in between. Namaste. So thank you everyone. Feel free to unmute yourselves. Apologies for